One man's journey to understand everything there is to know about sports has led to many losses. Horrible gaming, mediocre questions, but the guests are cool. And videos where gaming and podcasts combine to show sports, mainly Quidditch and football, from a variety of different angles. Welcome to Gameside Chat.
Hello world and welcome to my weekly podcast called Gameside Chat, which is, as you probably know, a gaming and podcast type podcast where, in theory, I'm meant to be interviewing people, but however, I didn't consider the fact that the friend I was going to talk to with is going to be working. So again, you get to hear me alone. However, in the future, I will try to be a bit more organized and hopefully we will be able to actually, talk to other people instead of just talking to me. So hello guys. If you're watching me, on YouTube, I will be playing, with Spartak as always, because I'm going to be talking about football. Potentially when I'm playing with new people, I will be doing something else. But for now, since I'm alone, I want to do the game I love and I'm doing my personal save just for fun. So if you are on YouTube actually, and if you're not on YouTube and if you're listening, just give me a little second. Let me just catch up, I guess, the viewers here just real quick while you're listening to me. You can grab some coffee or you can listen and maybe you will, be interested. This won't be too long. So as you can see here, we've managed to play with Spartak. We had 10 games. We won 8, drew 2. We're on 26 points above everyone else. I guess notable results would be the fact that we destroyed Zenit 4-0 with subs, with a kind of a rotated squad. We had, some injuries, so we had to change it around. And in terms of transfers, just real quick, real big things of note. We had Thiago Almada coming in, as you probably would have seen. Sobolev was already there. Valdemar Anton came in, that's a big guy. And Demana Pisil, that's kind of a youngster from Vancouver. He's an 18-year-old Canadian, that sort of stuff. And in terms of the outs, we just sold Ayaz Guliev. And that's pretty much it. We're pretty much caught up. And basically the plan is for the rest of this, I guess, half an hour, is just talk to you about a topic that has been on my mind for quite a while. So if you're listening to this on, on your audio, you can kind of start tuning in now. So if you are listening to me on, on YouTube or anything, I appreciate, leaving likes and comments. And if you're watching me on podcasts, if you're listening with your ears or watching with your ears, like for some reason I managed to say, write to me. I have, if you look up Mr. Spaceman on YouTube, first of all, it's a good way to, I guess, communicate with me. Also, Mr. Spaceman88 on Twitter. So yeah, write to me if you want me to talk about any more topics, or if you're just tired of me talking to myself and you want me to talk to other people, that'll be something. But today, the main topic that I want to discuss is international football and COVID. So as you know, COVID is a big thorn in our side for the past year. And if you don't know, then you're either not doing your best job in helping prevent the spread, or you've been living under a rock, which I doubt most of you have. But with the resumption of football in, I think, June, end of May, start of June, I believe, in my opinion, that football and governing bodies and pretty much all the FAs have been taking this, I guess, I don't want to say disease or this virus, not for granted, but they stopped caring about it as much. When football came back, we were obviously all happy. We were all super, just excited, and we wanted to see football. We wanted to see good level football. And, obviously we didn't get that at the start. We got some good football, but as you could tell, players were not fully fit. There were injuries. There were just a whole lot of things. And a big factor for me personally that, I was afraid of this season mostly is the fact that, first of all, we had 2 weeks to prepare between season 1 and season 2. Which, if you know, a 2-week preseason is horrible because a lot of it is you put your fitness stuff in, you get you work out in, your legs are running, your legs are moving, your heart's beating, that sort of stuff. And also you're getting your head moving, you learn the tactics, you get to know your new players. And for teams like Chelsea, this was too short of a thing, for example, because think about it, you have a lot of new signings. You have Kai Havertz, you have Werner, you have Ziyech all coming in. Thiago Silva, it's just a few examples, and they don't know each other. A lot of them probably don't speak English very well. A lot of them, are playing different styles, and you have to find a way to glue them together. And this 2-week break was horrible. It's not enough. And this kind of leads on to something else, because once again, at the start, we realized, hey, football's to survive, we have to be serious, well, I say we. the football teams had to be serious. So everyone wore masks, everyone wore gloves, you know, no touching, no communicating with the other team apart from the game, you know, all the cares, you know, everyone's doing tests and stuff. And back then it was pretty much success, you know, there was almost no, I guess, huge cases of, you know, teams catching COVID. There was no huge cases of matches being cancelled. And that's fair enough because, you know, it's easier to kind of control the virus spread in the country than across countries. And this is where I'm trying to go into today because, and I know I took kind of a long way around it, but the problem that we're facing today is the fact that, you know, COVID, there's a reason why we have a lot of restrictions about travel. And that's just to make sure that, you know, people do not travel, people do not spread this far and wide, people do not come from places with hotspots. And yeah, and the things I'm going to be talking to you about, and I'm going to do not really 2 case studies, but I will mention 2 big things. I'll mention Liverpool as a team and all their struggles. And I will also mention Korea and I guess Ulsan, because it's the teams that I kind of know about. So those will be the teams that I'll be talking to you about today. And I'll be talking to you about why, first of all, football doesn't really care about players. They only care about money. And you probably know that. You probably assume that already. And another big thing is you will probably also notice that I don't understand what the point of international friendlies are. Or it's not friendlies anymore. It's the not Europa League. What's the name of it? European League divisions. You know, anyways, let's just start from the start. Well, personally, I think it's very stupid that we relaxed all the measures in football. We relaxed all the stuff, you know, people can now travel, we've uncancelled Champions League, we've uncancelled all the international trophies, we uncancelled all the stuff. And that is very, very, not, I don't want to say silly, but it probably is the right word. It is silly. It could be too early. But again, it's a very hard thing to judge because for the Champions League, at least you make lots of money, you know, people watch football. And if you have to make the decision between money and I guess potential for disaster, you will most likely pick money. And that's what the, I guess, UEFA has done. And I don't want to defend it. I don't want to, you know, condone it because, you know, I watch Champions League. I could boycott it, but no, I watch it and it's interesting. It's entertaining. But in that case, I can, you know, you can make a little bit of, I guess, an argument that, hey, they have to somehow answer to the stakeholders, you know, all this money put into the televised stuff, you know, the teams will lose money from this. And you're like, fair enough. However, in my opinion, this does not really apply to international football. Because international football, in my opinion, once again, is a thing where it's mostly watched by, first of all, by your nation during moments of importance. So for example, again, let's talk about Russia. No one really cares about the Russian national team unless they're playing in big tournaments. So, you know, when we had the World Cup, you know, so many people cared. Everyone tuned in. Everyone was very interested. You know, it's the World Cup. It's our first World Cup at home. What can we do? What can we show? We were all excited. We all wanted to see it. But now during this European League divisions, no one really cares. You know, it's unless you're a big football fan and unless you want to, you know, watch this torture of football, of how crap we're playing. By the way, if you're watching this, we lost 5-0 to Serbia. And if the manager's not sacked yet, I am going to be shocked. But you know, what does it bring? You know, all the teams have pretty much qualified, and this thing only really applies to teams that have a chance to qualify. So, for example, like Scotland qualified, you know, for them playing in the, you know, and this, I guess, after COVID made sure they qualified, and that's fair enough. But for teams like Germany, for teams like England, for teams like Spain, what's the point of this? What are they going to gain from it? They've already qualified and they will potentially have already qualified. That is not a problem. That was pretty much a given. And everyone knows that, you know, but for some reason, FAs of each nation think, no, it's very important that we don't stop this. It's very important that we still keep playing for reasons that I don't know. And because of this, instead of having a 2-week break for players, we instead have, even more games. We instead have, you know, more injuries to players. We have basically, instead of them having a chance to relax, you know, take a breather, potentially just refresh their legs, you know, make sure no muscles are being torn, no overloading. No, what you have is basically half of Liverpool dying. You have half of Liverpool dying. And I think for them, it's more of a problem than for other teams. And this will be a problem for teams like Atalanta, for teams like Ajax, you know, the very attacking, runny teams. as well. Basically, their football requires a lot of running, a lot of physical conditioning. You know, you players are always just on the peak of, breaking apart, but they're not, because, the science is there, the coaching is there, the experts are there, and they make sure that the players are ready, the players are, physically ready, mentally ready, all sorts of stuff. And if someone's not ready, they give them a break. And that's fair enough. And with each year, the physicality of players, specifically the fitness levels, just increased. I remember maybe 5 or 10 years back when someone told me that, like, oh, this player ran 10 kilometers in the match. You were like, whoa, that's incredible. He must have run a lot. He must have done so much. He must have, contributed a lot of the team. And now it's typical you have, 11, 12 kilometers a match. So you can tell how a little bit there's already a big jump in fitness levels. And for demanding teams like Liverpool, this is probably increased because every single person has to run. Their system works if every person runs, if every person dies on the pitch. Yeah, at any given moment. And Jurgen Klopp knows this. He developed a way, and he has some rotation. He's not stupid. He's not trying to make sure the players die. No, they work on that line. They work safely in the line of, making sure the players give 120%. And make sure that, they don't die 120% times more or whatever. And now, instead of having a big break, from them just getting back into fitness, because I don't count this, was a 2 or 3 month break we had from football. I don't really count that as a break for them, because for them, they were doing their preseason and they were doing their fitness stuff during, June, July thing, and during games. So they weren't already getting into their full 100%, they weren't ready for the level of football they need to do. And that's what happens. You go, you don't have a break, you don't have a proper preseason, you're not properly prepared, bam, half of Liverpool's squad is gone. Half of Liverpool's squad is kind of wiped. They're all back four is wiped. And let me just read you out the list. I took a screenshot because for me, it's crazy. A lot of the times, you think, okay, injury crisis. What does that mean? We had 2 players injured in the similar position. What are we going to do now? No, but Liverpool is ridiculous. I'll read you the list. So Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Fabinho, Thiago Alcantara, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Salah, and Henderson, right? And potentially Robertson as well. So that is an incredible list. All of back 4 is injured. So Jurgen Klopp has to, juggle the squad pretty much. He has to fully juggle the squad. And maybe fair enough, Van Dijk you can write off, and potentially Salah you can write off because, those are Van Dijk was unfortunate, and, that kind of tackle, it's not much to do with injuries in terms of, not being prepared. It's just a freak accident, and, that leads to an injury. But for things like Henderson, for things like Arnold, for things like Robertson, the guys that run so much, the guys that just they run a lot. They have a lot of games. They're very important to the squad. They run up and down the pitch. They make assists. For them, they never had that break, and they never had that moment where their muscles and their, just literally the whole body had a chance to relax. So they're always in a matter of stress, and it was a matter of time before they broke. And this is something that was completely ignored by, I guess, what a weird goal. It was completely ignored by the FAs, because all they cared for some reason, and I keep talking to you about how this league, this European league, is useless, especially for big teams. For teams like Russia, it's a chance to prove that whatever, or for teams like Scotland, it's a chance to get promoted. I could be wrong. Maybe they got promoted through the European knockouts. But, again, this tournament is for the smaller teams. The bigger teams just want to try and rotate their squad and try their squad out. And, hopefully, eventually, when a big tournament comes, they can test it out. However, the next big tournament is Euro 2021, which is Euro 2020. And potentially, that's not even happening. But as you know, it's 6 months. A lot can happen in 6 months. What's the point of starting to build right now in the middle of a global pandemic, right? What's the point of building an international team which potentially doesn't even lead to anything? You potentially will work out something, and then half your players will, break down. What's the point of this? Who is this for? No money is being made. No fans go to the stadium. I doubt the interest for these tournaments are big, so almost no TV money. So is this just for pride? Is just because, UEFA doesn't want to be, they just don't want to, I guess, be not important anymore? I don't know. I don't understand. For me, international football has a place, you know, obviously. I do get annoyed, and, you know, I think the amount of friendlies have definitely increased, and I don't like that. I do enjoy watching big tournaments. I do enjoy watching friendlies the big tournaments, because you get to see the best of the best from a given country. And that's fair enough. But in a global pandemic, when the players are crying out for rest, this could have been a good 2-week break. This could have been a good 2-week break where maybe, you know, managers were like, right, have a 4-day holiday. You know, I know you can't travel much, you know, obviously, especially in the UK with the lockdown, but you can at least chill at home, relax, you know, mentally relax, just all that stuff, physically relax. And then from next week, we do a little bit of recovery fitness, and then we do preparation for the year. A lot of injuries could be just gone because the player is refreshed, and those 2 weeks would have helped massively. However, now, not only do they not have this break, but you're also forced to you're also forced to travel across borders, you know, across borders with countries that are on different levels of coping with this virus, really. So you're putting your players at risk, and I'm surprised that the unions of football players are not putting more of a fuss, because I'm pretty sure soon there will be a fuss. And another big example, for example, Norway. Yeah, there was a little case of COVID. One player got tested positive. That means the whole team couldn't go. The game was cancelled. Romania won 3-0. Now, what are the chances that Romania would have beaten Norway? There is a chance. Obviously, it's football. But what is the chance? You know, it's almost non-existent. However, because of this loss, this means that Northern Ireland got relegated from this weird European-friendly league. So now you're telling me that a team that has done everything right has managed to get relegated because another team just tested positive. That is stupid. So then again, why don't you cancel all the games? Why are some games cancelled? Why are some games not cancelled? For example, Ukraine-Switzerland got cancelled. You know, Ukraine is another big example of, I guess, the football teams are not coping as well because, as you know, Shakhtar had a lot of cases, and they had to play, you know, a lot of youngsters in their Champions League games against Real Madrid and against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Incredible. I mean, it was good for the youth players, but at the same time, so many players are just out. Not only with COVID or being tested positive, but also with other things. And this could have been a great opportunity to take a break, to stop the unnecessary spread of this stupid virus. I really want to be able to come back to normal. You know, I really want to go back to football matches. I really want to go back to everything, but we're not yet ready. We're not yet at the stage. And whoever's talking about potentially we could be going back to the stadiums in December is a bit stupid, not going to lie, because the thing is, they say, you know, it's probably safer in, you know, in football stadiums than in, you know, in the supermarket. And I would say maybe, but the problem about, you know, football stadiums is it's a lot of people, and a lot of people have to get there somehow, first of all. Also, you got to know what those people are doing before, because as you know, a lot of people are irresponsible. And when they go to football games, they're very drunk. And to get drunk, a lot of the times they go with other people. So they're breaking rules, then they're getting drunk. Then they're thinking, oh, it's fine. They get together. They just, no, they talk. And then that's how COVID spreads. It's stupid things like this. And international football right now is not helping, because you have people jetting over across the world. People like Liverpool getting injured for absolutely no reason. There was no necessity for players getting injured. There was no necessity for Henderson getting injured. You know, what did England, Belgium give to us? Nothing. It wasn't good football. You know, we saw some players play. We potentially saw that Grealish is good, and you know, maybe it's good for Grealish in a more personal matter, because he's actually finally managed to almost cement his place in the national team, and everyone thinks that, and even Southgate thinks that. So maybe for him specifically, this was a very good thing, and he will hate me if he's listening to this, that I'm saying the opposite. But again, what's the point? What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to show? I don't understand. I wonder, if you're watching this, how many of you have actually seen your nation play during international football? And also, how many of you have this big thing when you groan when you hear that there's going to be 2 weeks break from football? It's quite a common thing. And another big funny thing, you know, is the fact that, again, first of all, you're jetting people off from different countries together, right? And this will lead on perfectly into the Korean national team. But before this, I was like, look, a lot of the players don't play together. So maybe England is lucky, because most players play in England. So that's the same way of dealing with the virus, you know, same way clubs are kind of run similarly, especially at the top level. However, when you have more international teams, so potentially France, maybe Belgium, Spain, not as much, but like the smaller teams as well, a lot of the people come from completely different countries. And this is just taking an extra risk, an unnecessary risk of putting people from different places in the same place where normally they wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't have been there. And instead of being safe, they tell them to play together. And they can't even properly isolate because, you only have 2 weeks to play. So basically, you got to be 100% sure someone's positive. Someone's negative. You got to be positive that someone's negative to make sure they play. And this leads perfectly into the example that I'm going to tell you, because South Korea has managed to do a Baden, a dum-dum, silly. And if you follow me on Twitter, I have shared a few things. So just again, to remind you, Mr. Spaceman88 on Twitter. A big thing is the fact that Hwang Hee-chan got tested positive after playing, I think it was against Mexico. So, if you don't know, the Korean national team and Korean football right now is... the Korean league is currently in the middle. So they finished their league. Now they're in the middle of their own international tournament, which is held in Doha. And it's called the ACL Championship. Well, basically it's the Asian Champions League. And what this meant was the players had to go from Korea. They had to travel to wherever they played. And then they had to travel back to either the clubs first, or they had to travel back to Doha. And the funny thing is, Hwang Hee-chan played that game, trained with players. They didn't know that he was positive. After the game, he got tested positive. And the worst part about that is that a few players from the Ulsan team were already on their way to Qatar. And they found out that the fact that they would have to self-isolate pretty much on the plane. And now you're thinking, well, let's say Hwang Hee-chan, it's not his fault. I don't think it's his fault. When you're told by your employers that, this is the correct procedure, all he does is he goes in, he does his job, he leaves. Yeah, he didn't do anything stupid. He didn't, at the end of the day, go to the pub, get drunk, and then he got tested positive. No, that's not what I'm saying. But, these things happen. You can catch COVID even if you're careful, and that's just the nature of it. But what has happened was, unbeknowingly, he could have potentially passed it on to everyone. And before anyone could have found out that he was actually positive, and those Korean players, those Ulsan players had to self-isolate, they could have been sitting in planes with other people. And unluckily, they could have passed it on. And then unluckily, those people could have passed it on. And then so on and so forth. So you see how this situation comes from a very, not even honest mistake, just a very small thing of just one person. And it can go crazily. And now, the airport potentially has to self-isolate, because I don't know what will happen on the plane. Who work there if they have to, do something. So basically, again, another chance of losing money for them. Chance for for clubs to lose money in the sense of a lot of good players have been tested positive and they can't play. So again, I'll have to give you an example, because I think some of the players you won't probably know, but a good example is it was just 3 players. It was just 3 players from Ulsan. So you got Won Do-jae, Jung Song-hyun, and Kim Tae-hwan. So Kim Tae-hwan is a player that I think played that game as well. And one of another players, Jo Hyun-woo, he still remains in Austria. So this is a thing that messes up the plans for Ulsan, personally, because now they have to play a tournament with they don't know who. They don't know how many players will play. They don't know who will play, actually. So you can see it's already starting to be a bit of an annoying thing, a bit of it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. And it's an unnecessary problem. That's the thing I'm trying to tell you guys. It is such an unnecessary problem to have. Out of all the problems we could have been coming up right now, this is something that could have been easily avoided. This is not an important thing. This is not, like I said, Champions League, I don't think it's important in a grand scheme of things. But again, it's harder to explain to people that you can't stay in the Champions League. Because, people love the Champions League. People look forward to it. A lot of clubs make a lot of money from it. And as you know, money is kind of a big impact for, it's a big thing for a lot of people. And that's understandable. That's how the world works. We can't do anything about that, even though we hope that, people's lives are put before money. That's sadly not always the case. Money is quite often the leading decision maker in a lot of things. But the stuff with international football, the unnecessary friendlies, is by the nature of it unnecessary. It is something that would not have happened unless someone decided we are actually going to actively keep international friendlies. I don't know. I think this was a shorter one. I wanted to talk about international football. And I don't know, I want to hear your opinions. I want to see your opinions. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm currently playing Wufa, and I'm saying this just because in case my audio unsyncs. But if you're listening to me on podcast as well, go interact with me on Twitter. Tell me, what do you think of international football? Do you think it's smart? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think, everything is going fine? Do you think it's just a coincidence that a lot of players are getting injured? Do you think it's a coincidence that a lot of players that didn't have to be together at this moment in time are coming together and getting tested positive? Is it a problem that, a player could play a game and then find out later, but not like almost a day later or a few days later, that he actually is positive? That's the thing. And a final thing to say, do you think we're ready to go back to stadiums? This conversation about it's safer than a supermarket, potentially, but again, you have to go to a supermarket. Do you have to go to a football match? And this is coming from a guy who really loves football. I watch football, I play football. I mean, if you're watching me, also Victor Moses scored his first goal for us. If you're watching me, I play FIFA, I play Football Manager. I make podcasts about football. I watch football. I watch, 4 different leagues. I watch, Russian league, English league, K-League. What else? Occasionally big matches. So this is a guy who really, really cares and really wants football back. And it's, same form. But I don't want to go back to a football stadium. Oh, and also another interest. I get paid for working at United. Yeah, I'm a United steward. And because there's no fans, there's some money I'm losing. And I'm telling you guys that I think this is stupid to come back. It's safer at home to have a beer, to watch your football in first of all, in warmth. There's no rain. There's no other people there. There's no chance of, there's a much lower chance of contracting COVID this way. And the more we do stupid stuff like this, the more our beautiful game gets put away. The more our beautiful game gets messed up. All these different limitations, all these different injuries, all these different, problems, they will continue to happen unless we decide to bite the bullet for a little bit, sacrifice a little bit right now. And it's not even much. It's just, this is what pisses me off. And I know it's going on a rant and it's going away from the international thing that I want to talk about, because I was afraid that if I talk about football in a larger scale of things, this will go out of hand, but I have a bit of time. In a grand scheme of things, football is not more important than, for example, your grandparents' lives, your parents' lives, your friends' lives, someone else's lives. And whatever, fine. You don't know anyone that, hasn't had COVID. Fair enough. Good for you. I'm happy for you. I don't want you to feel like this. I don't want you to be afraid of this. But you gotta be careful. What if the problem is it's not you most likely that's gonna take the punishment. It's someone else down the line. It's gonna be someone else's, grandparent. It's gonna be someone else's relative getting this and potentially dying. Because you decided it'll be a fun thing to go watch football game with your buddies and beforehand get drunk, hug, whatever you guys do during games or before games, sing songs in each other's faces, definitely not 2 meters, definitely not wearing masks. It's a joke. It's a joke. And for everyone that's complaining, I don't know. There is nothing. There is nothing I can say about that. But continuing this thing about football, I have a thing currently. I have a consideration that I want you guys to think about. So this stuff with international football, with players not being injured, with players being injured because they're being overworked, is coming from the fact that people, first of all, they forget that football players are people. They see football players, they know that, hey, they have the best facilities, they have everyone taking care of them, they're almost in, they're basically almost optimal humans in this regard. They're perfect athletes. Everyone's watching over them. If Salah, breathes, one breath less in 2 minutes, they're like, okay, what's the problem? What can we do? If Salah runs a centimeter less per match, they're like, okay, what's happening? Is he not sleeping well? Let's get him a new mattress. Let's get the sleep experts to talk to him. That sort of stuff. And they think and they extrapolate that. They see this trend of increasing fitness and increasing fitness. And they see it as a sign of, well, we can work them more. Oh, who cares if, football players go play 40 matches a year? Who cares if they play 50? Who plays 60? A big team typically plays 40 to 45 games. Yeah. And for players like Trent Alexander, Robertson, they play most of those games. And if they have to go away and also play, stupid international friendlies that no one cares about, no one watches, no one really wants to see them, what's the point? Why not give them a 2-week break? And because of this, this will kill the lower leagues of football because, currently, grassroots football has been kind of stopped, really. I think only professional teams can do it. And fair enough, it's easier to control professional football players because, you get paid. It's your responsibility. It's your job to stay safe. It's the job of the team to take care of you because they've invested in you and they want to make sure you're good. But if you're just a local team, if you're a semi-pro team, if you go to your football game and then you go to work, you get paid whatever, £50 a game, and then you go to work at the office somewhere. They can't control what you do. They can't control what you do at that work because they just can't. They don't, I don't want to say don't own you. It's probably the wrong word to use, but they don't have any control over that. And this what leads to the spread of it. And this, again, feeds into the fact that lower league games are cancelled. Lower leagues are cancelled. They die. Lower leagues die. Potentially you have less players playing football. Less players play football. Big teams have less choice to pick from players. And it just keeps going like this. And because of the fact that, man, a lot of the times I don't understand. I've done this because I wanted to, first of all, talk about, my opinions on football, my opinions on international football, my opinions on how football is coping with COVID. And the more I do it, the more muddled my brain gets because, again, although I say muddled, it's easy. Football is an entertainment for us. Football teams don't owe us anything. Players don't owe us anything. They get paid. They don't get paid using our taxes. They get paid using other stuff, And a lot of times it's not even the fans that pay for this, it's the sponsors, unless you support a smaller team and that smaller team is, it really depends on how many fans turn up. And for them, I feel really bad because there's nothing worse than you're trying to survive. You're just managing to stay afloat. And then second lockdown, you can't have any fans. And you're just like, I want to cry because a lot of them work on a tight budget. And they've always worked on a tight budget in the best of times, and they die. And this will be a big test for owners to see, hey, if they're actually very, very smart operators, or if they just want to manage a football club. Because this is unprecedented. No one knows how to deal with this, And again, leading back to fitness, even your sports scientists people, the sports scientists, the physios, they don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to deal with, prolonged breaks. They don't know how to deal with stupid amount of games a week, Now it's very normal to play twice a week. Before it used to be, you play your Champions League once every week, yeah? Once every 2 weeks, so it's just a bit less. Occasionally you do cups, but now it's every week you play your league and you play the Champions League, and potentially, if you're a team like Tottenham, you can play 4 games a week. How is this allowed? No amount of rotation can save you from this. And again, Jurgen Klopp is a genius because it's almost as if he saw it and he signed a few players in, to replace. But even then, he has no back four to talk about. The only player they have probably replaced right now at this moment is the left back position, the Greek guy they signed. So that's it. What are the rest going to do? I don't understand. So again, I think I'll end it at this. It was 34 minutes or something. I hope you enjoyed my little rant. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know if you guys think I'm just being ranting for no reason, or if I have a point. Maybe, tell me if I have not considered something, or tell me more examples actually. If, what other rubbish things you have seen in football. What other, maybe if I've missed a team that has an even bigger example than, the South Korea and Ulsan, or how about, Liverpool? If there's a bigger example that I would potentially want to share in my next podcast, that would be awesome to hear. I really want to know about it, because to me, it blows my mind. It just blows my mind. But anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching with your eyes and watching with your ears. I really appreciate. This has been Gameside Chat. I will try to do this once a week. I will try and release it at 6 p.m. on Thursdays, so I have a little bit of time to record. Today is Thursday, so I'm recording. It'll be kind of easy to render because there's not much editing, and this is why I love podcasts. And also I get to talk to you guys. I get to talk to... It's kind of in a funny way. It's almost like streaming without streaming, if that makes sense. But anyways, thank you for watching. This has been Gameside Chat, and I'll see you guys, or I'll hear you guys, on next Thursday. Next Thursday, 6 p.m. It was nice chatting with you. Well, it was nice chatting to myself. See you guys. Bye-bye.